WeFM. So coming to your studio this evening is an additional bonus.
Yes.
I'm getting some feedback though.
Okay.
Um, I want to say special greetings to all listeners out there because I know we would have an interesting discussion this evening. I am hoping that we would have a very clean, open, and frank discussion where we would be presenting facts and figures. We'll be presenting the historical data. We want to present the data that applies to the traditions and customs of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and especially the people here of Bequia. So we are going to avoid all the innuendos and slander and abuse and stick primarily to what is important and what is factual. So I welcome anyone to call in, to send WhatsApp messages to make sure that we can answer your questions and we stay informed this afternoon. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much, Mr. Belmar, for being here with us on Light FM. I want to say good evening to those who are locked on from the mainland, Bequia. I see the Trini flags shining bright. I see those from Jamaica. I see those from Canada and even England. So it's nice to have you guys locked on to Light FM. So we're going to begin, and we're going to put the nail on hammer right on the nail. So we know this issue has been one that, from this time around started to escalate into a interesting development where it is now seemingly wrong. It should be prohibited on the island of Bequia, which is with regards to whaling. Now, before we get to that, can you give us some insight as to when did whaling started in Bequia? Was it copied from some different country, or was it taught to us as a tradition?
Rick, I think that is very interesting. Persons who may have listened to WeFM today would have heard me making a comment in that I actually stated that the historical data and the evidence that exists are totally disregarded. Now, I am of the opinion that we are at a point in time where our people, our young people in particular, need to know more about what's going on in our society. And this is so important that I even ventured as far as saying that William T. Wallace, who started the whaling tradition and historical culture here in Bequia, should be one of the persons that we have listed as a national hero. Not that he might be recognized, but we should keep him shortlisted. My reason for saying that is William T. Wallace, when he started the whaling tradition here in 1860, he bought 2 used whaleboats from New Bedford. Remembering also that he was married to the daughter of a whale ship on which he sailed in the United States waters as and he was his father-in-law was the captain of that whale ship. Now he returned to Bequia and started the tradition of whaling with 2 whaleboats. One was called the Iron Duke and the other one the Nancy Dawson. Rick, before I go further, I'm getting so much feedback that I think I may even want to take off the headphones.
Oh, okay.
So let's try to regulate this, please. Listeners, I want you to bear with me because I took off my headphone, which is a little difficult to work without, but I'll talk over it if I can. The microphone is so sensitive that I'm getting an echo back through the microphone, through the speakers. So it's difficult for me to carry a fluent conversation, listening to myself and listening to you at the same, re-echoing 2 and 3 times. So I was saying that William T. Wallace purchased these two used whaleboats and brought them back to Bequia. Not that he was so keen on slaughtering whales as the whale huggers of today would like to make it appear to be, but he was actually trying to bring a form of livelihood to the people of Bequia in particular. We must remember, especially you students out there, that in 1860 we were coming out of the plantation system. We were escaping from slavery, and the failure of indigo and cotton and coconuts and then sugarcane and the abolition of slavery left our people practically searching for something to do. And the standards of boats that we had even then was not as seaworthy as we know them today. So therefore, traveling further from coast to catch better fish and then taking that fish to market in Grenada and St. Vincent was practically unheard of. Now, so we depended on the mercies of what you can catch and what you can grow. Now, by 1890, after William T. Wallace introduced whaling, as a single-handed operation, he was able to take whaling as an export entity, exporting the whale oil and some of the what we call baleen, or it was known then as whalebone, not the actual white whalebone that we know, but the baleen that was used to do so many different things in the 1800s, from stringing piano keys to get the spring for the piano keys, to making corset busts for women and their fancy corsets and so on and so forth, to hundreds of different things. But that whale oil was harvested primarily to satisfy the European and American market, but because they depended entirely on whale oil for their lamps, for greasing the machinery, to run the factories, to producing of fine oils for watches and clocks and all that sorts of stuff, because whale oil was considered indestructible in its uses. Now, because we were able to export that whale oil and some of the bone, the export market, the GDP of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, rose considerably. So William T. Wallace, starting a very small industry, took for export of whale oil, went to number 4 in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So we went from 0 to the 4th position as an export market in a matter of a few years. And then we were still able, unlike the Americans who taught us to whale, use the meat to provide that protein base on which our people can survive. So we had the protein base in whale meat, and we had the corn, peas, and cassava to go along with it. So we had a stable lifestyle here in our island.
So that was basically like those in history where they had to use sorting, they had to hunt, they had to do this in order to survive.
Yeah.
So that was a way of,
like I said
life
from
for
earlier,
us.
we grow what we eat, and we catch what we eat.
Exactly.
So we grow corn, peas, and cassava, but if we had fish along the shore, you catch fish, but when preserving fish and preserving whale is a much different thing. Whale, we know, can stay for months preserved in its own oil when it's cooked. And if it's salted and dried, as we call it, conned, it can stay for an indefinite period. And we had protein to go through the year to last with the corn, the peas, and the cassava, the farine. I want to emphasize here before I change or advance from the topic, that by 1890, we started in 1860. By 1890, we were exporting over 250,000 gallons of oil from St. Vincent and the Grenadines to the United States.
Wow.
So we were, 250,000 gallons of oil being exported to St. Vincent, or from St. Vincent. So we climbed. Hence my reason for saying one man saved an entire island practically from the face of starvation and created job opportunities where 1/4 of the male working population of Bequia and some of the other Grenadines islands were involved in the whaling tradition. So he pulled by one or matter of fact, by two old whaleboats that he brought in from the United States, from New Bedford, the Nancy Dawson and the Iron Duke. They were able to build an industry around that and save a whole community. Hence my reason for saying he ought to be recognized for what he has done for this community.
Definitely.
Understanding also that the whaleboats were not just used as we do now for 3 or 4 months of the year and then they're parked aside until the following year. Whaleboats became working boats in the community. They were able to go out and go to St. Vincent and bring shop goods back to Bequia. So we had small industries growing out of that.
Okay.
Bring shopping, because you couldn't bring bags of sugar and flour and rice and so on in a canoe, which was what existed on mainland St. Vincent. So our whaleboats became our working boats. And then our boat builders, the boat building tradition which sprang up around those similar type of boats, were able to build similar boats of similar sizes to form seine boats and regular working fishing boats. And I would dare anybody now to go into the, not Bank of St. Vincent, is the one that used to be Barclays uptown. I think, is it for St. Vincent Bank? I think it is. There are several photographs on the wall of that building there when I last visited there. Black and white photographs showing Kingstown, the Kingstown market, when before the reclamation site actually developed.
Yeah.
And all the photographs there, all the pictures that are showing boats with sails, every single boat with a sail belongs to Bequia.
Really?
All the other boats there are canoes which ply between the leeward coast of St. Vincent and the windward side of St. Vincent. All those that had sails mounted are Bequia boats based in Kingstown, marketing the fish. So we had an industry growing out of the origin of two simple boats that came to Bequia. Then those same boats were able to go to Grenada and Kingstown to bring back building material. So our housing stock grew from wattle and dab housing to wooden houses and even concrete houses, because barrels of cement, when cement was stored in barrels, not sacks, we had barrels that cement were bought in. Barrels of cement were able to come back in these very whaleboats to do construction.
Whaleboats.
Whaleboats.
So
the
amazing.
whaleboats actually became working boats.
Wow.
And the whole culture of housing, food that we eat, the clothes that we wear, the lifestyle of people in Bequia changed dramatically after that 1860 introduction of the two whaleboats from New Bedford.
But this is amazing information that I'm learning.
You see,
here
there's historical data that I say I want to bring to the people of St. Vincent.
Yeah.
So people don't realize whaling didn't just spring out of somebody's crazy idea to go out there with a harpoon and an iron lance and slaughter some whales because we don't like a whale and we want to kill it, and we have a vengeance for a whale and want to kill it, or we want to display our macho-ness.
Exactly.
So it's brawn above brain and go and kill the whale just to eat it. It's something that we grow with.
It's more than
something
that.
that we inherited.
Yep.
It is, in my opinion, and I've said it in many fora before, it's like a living museum that we inherited from the Yankees, and it's still operational using the same traditional methods of doing it.
All right. Well, surprisingly, we have some persons logged on from Venezuela.
Okay.
I see more people from Canada listening, and from additional persons from Jamaica. I see some unknown flags. I am not too sure, but those who are listening, we want to say good evening from you. We have some persons from St. Martin, so the unknown flags that I'm seeing here, they are from St. Martin. Yes, and we also want to welcome Preacher Man George, Danny in studios this evening with us.
My good friend and former student, Danny.
Yes. Let me turn on the mic.
Danny, I had to take my mic off because they're getting too much feedback from there. It's too sensitive.
All right, so something. Let me make sure that you are coming through there. Good evening, sir. All right, that's the wrong one. Wait, yes.
Okay, awesome, yeah.
Good evening.
Okay.
Yes, good evening to St. Vincent and good evening.
Yes. So we have Brother Danny in studios now with us.
Danny, it's a pleasure to have you sit beside me. Quite often I feel so good when I see my past students come back and share, panels and rub shoulders and
Oh,
Yes,
instruct me, I should say, at this point.
definitely.
I always say the same. I'm a pleasure being here with my former teacher. Learned many things from him. Still learning. Mr.Herman Belmar, well known in our country. And soon we'll be having Mr. Alan Leach with us. Another past student, Mr. Belmar.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
So
we
we
are
have a
learning.
reunion here this evening.
A reunion.
Yes,
A
yes.
reunion.
And I'm making sure I'm sharing this. I just was reading a little bit again on whaling, and it's so important that we are looking at our culture. It's not just for we, but it's for our past and our present and future, Mr. B.
Yes, it's recognizing from whence we came.
From whence we came.
Just before you go on, for persons who are listening, if you have your questions to ask or suggestions that you want to give, you can message me at 498-9960. Those who are overseas, you remember the area code would be 1784-498-9960. You can send me your voice notes as well, and we'll play them live so persons can hear your thoughts on the issue on whaling. All right, please don't make it rude. Don't make it. Want to keep it as clean as possible. I know those who may have their differences try to keep it as very clean as possible. All right, back to you, Danny.
I was reading about culture is something close to your heart. Mr. B will help me.
Yes, yes.
And we just don't pick up and say we are going whaling as I came in and heard. But whaling to us is very. And a couple years ago, Mr. B, and for those who are asking why we call him Mr., that's how we used to call him in school, Mr.
That's my pet name.
I brought that co-op, he just went up back to the therapist. Yes. You ready? Okay, yeah. And one morning I wake him up and he said, let me show you how we do whaling rather than, he's from Barley, the bagger style. For those who are listening in Barley, good evening. And he said, wow, Danny, this is so good. It's a cultural event. We have, I remember Mr. Big and laugh, eh? One time they caught a whale all in the morning. Mr. B announced in assembly, he said, no one leave until midday, so went over school. Mr. B had to call back assembly again at break time and said, about 50 of you in school, you all can go home. That's how important whaling is to Bequia.
Another student reminded me of that just yesterday.
See, I could remember days when he blows faster. There was no school at all, only the teachers and me, because if I go home, my mother will lick me. I show him how important whaling is. And when I wake him up at 6 o'clock that morning, and he saw the amount of young children, old people, middle-aged, everybody coming out and shouting, supporting their culture, he said, this is something you should not take to die.
I must add something. I have never been to Paddy Farm when they were actually hunting whales.
Right.
I only heard of the experience where the crowd in the hills will shout and so on. I never knew what the feeling was like. And you won't believe me. I was in charge on that same time. And I was upstairs and I heard the shouting outside. It echoed from one end to the next. I said, wait, the sailing is so good? I said, we got a really bad boy. But then it went to another level of
Crescendo went
excitement.
Up. Yes.
And I was like, nah boy, something else up. And then somebody told me they're striking whale. When I went outside and to behold the amount of people along the edges of the shoreline, on the hills, looking over, I was like, my goodness. I never thought. I got goosebumps all over my body.
Rick and Danny, this year, for a very long time, I think Padre Farm experienced the resurrection of the traditional cultural involvement
In whaling.
of the young people
Yep.
and the common public in whaling. In that, for the first time for quite a long while, 3 whales were actually, 2 were harpooned and 1 got very close to being harpooned. Actually, they threw the harpoon, but something went wrong and they didn't get the whale. The pin in the harpoon broke, I was told. And those 3 whales were in the vicinity of Rame, right in front of Padre Farm. And I happened to be working in Padre Farm on those 3 occasions.
Yeah.
Well, I was not working on Saturday, I was at home, and as soon as the services that I listened to on Saturdays was over, I was up the hill with my binoculars, and I sat on top of the hill, and I could feel, I almost can feel the electricity of the people when they shout and scream and prance in the community below. And I followed the whale as it went further away. You go higher onto the hilltops. So I was right up on top of the hill overlooking Padre Farm. And to hear that uproar of people shouting
Yes.
at the whole scenario when they saw what was happening in front of them, it's like it's really electrifying.
Very much so.
How do you take away that from a people and tell them, okay, you got to stop this because it's barbaric and you got to go whale watching? How many people of Padre Farm would experience that type of joy? And it's like ecstasy, you know, from going out to look at a whale, you know?
Let me tell you, Mr. B.
Just before you say that, right? I don't know who the person was. I have the Light FM page.
Yes.
Somebody made comments to the whale that was caught. Well, both whales that were caught.
Yes.
They said the only reason why we were able to catch the 2 whales is because we were catching the whales untraditionally with speedboats. Now, bear in mind.
I don't want to cuss on your radio station, so I'm going to restrain myself. Okay, carry on.
Bear in mind, Mr. B. I saw a picture on Google,
Yes.
an old picture, and what did I see? Surrounding the same whale boats
Right.
was speedboats,
Yes.
and the whaler man,
Right.
he was striking it, and the speedboats were around. Not many, like what took place on Saturday, of the striking of the last 2 whales, but
Right.
there were whales there. Speedboats.
Yes.
So, how is it wrong now that you can now bring up this topic of us not whaling the traditional way, and we are basically, the only reason why we are catching them is because we are foot on foot with power
Great.
engines.
I would read for you a short extract from a document that was presented by the Aboriginal Subsistence Whaling Working Group, which was a group that was set up not by Vincentians or Bequians, but an appointed group as a sub-working group of the International Whaling Commission to discuss and present documentation to the International Whaling Commission meeting, which took place in October last year in Brazil.
Yep.
And part of the discussion which we presented, which was voted upon at the International Whaling Commission meeting, and voted upon overwhelmingly, 56 countries voted in support of this document that we presented, and
56 countries out
of the world, of members of the International Whaling Commission. And let me remind listeners that the International Whaling Commission is an organization that was set up to regulate whaling, regulate the hunting of whales, not to stop whale. So those who say stop whale, they are not members of the International Whaling Commission. They are NGOs who form themselves into working groups to pressurize and to subjugate and to reintroduce colonialism and apartheid to these small islands. I'll read from this for you. As hunters, and I was part of this discussion and presentation. As hunters, we constantly adapt our practices. You heard the qualifying term there? We adapt our practices, tools, and means of distribution to the challenges of location, season, weather condition, and species available to us. The decisions we make are based on our knowledge, experiences, and traditions as hunters of our understanding of the safest, most effective, and most efficient means available, as well as the financial and other resources to which we have access. We have presented a document to the International Whaling Commission showing that we have adapted and will continue to adapt, and the International Whaling Commission supports it, that we adapt to changes, weather conditions, environmental conditions, climate change, you name it. So therefore, in the 1800s, when our boats went out and harpooned whales, they didn't have outboard motors. They didn't have motor vessels.
Nope.
So our seamen, as whalers, had to sail the whale back to Bequia. That is why our boats are built stronger than the American boats, with bigger timbers, printed from the cedar timbers, and they have a keel rather than a flat bottom. So they are able to sail the whale back to shore with a stronger boat.
Right.
And they strung other boats to the whale boat, so they form an armada of sailing boats.
To get back safely to shore.
So it was a matter of sails and oars. So as the whalers and the fishermen who joined the hunt, it is traditional that our fishermen join the hunt. So they row and they sang shanties, sea shanties. And those of you who know Bernadette Olivier, the head teacher of the Union Island Secondary School, you can contact her at the Union Island Secondary School. She has done research into the traditions and the sea shanties of the whalers and the people of Bequia. She has recordings of the sea shanties of Bequia. And those sea shanties that were sung to give the men the momentum and the rhythm to row the whale and sail it back to shore are lost because of our cultural traditions and changing. But to tell me our fishermen now join the hunt to help to bring the whale back is changing, and it's not whaling anymore. You gotta be joking.
Very much so.
And I don't want to name persons on your radio station because people can become
Victimized, right.
You can be victimized, and I'm gonna keep the names out. But there are local people here who are party to these NGOs who are trying to smear our tradition and culture and practice to say we are not doing it traditionally. I can testify that the whale boat harpooned the whale on Saturday, last week, or the week before. How long ago it was? I can't remember.
About 2 weeks ago.
About 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago.
They harpooned the whale boat, the whale. It
But just before you continue, Mr. Belmar, sorry, I just want to welcome Mr. Alan to our...
Welcome, Alan.
Yes, sir.
My former student also. Good to have you here with us this evening. I think it's a very interesting discussion we're having here, and I do think we're having several people from around the world joining us, and I'm happy to waiting for their comments to come in.
Yes. All right, so I have someone calling, but I'm not sure yet if it's towards this discussion, but
Okay.
I will let you continue. I'll take their call.
Take the call and come back.
Yes.
Okay, I basically paused at the point where I was saying the whale boat harpooned the whale, and then they got assistance from other whalers in speedboats. Now, I wish I would let Rick take a photograph and he can post it online so that those of you who are listening can possibly see it later. But I have in my hand a magazine that shows the methods of the Alaskans as they whale. They are, in this photograph, you can see clearly, Danny, what are you seeing here?
Engine boat.
An aluminum engine boat
Right.
with a darting gun standing in the front ready to harpoon a whale.
Right.
That's
And that's the same thing. It does not mean that the Alaskans do not catch whale from their skin boats.
Skin, right.
They still use skin boats. Look at that.
There's a guy in the boat.
They use skin boats to catch whales.
That's right.
But they also use speedboats just like us
In the process.
in the process of capturing and killing the whale. But I'll tell you something. I want to give this information to the public. Now, St. Vincent and the Grenadines is authorized by the International Whaling Commission to take 4 whales per year.
Right.
Okay?
whales.
4 humpback whales.
Right.
Why is it then that the country, there are 4 whaling nations that are recognized by the International Whaling Commission, namely United States of America, yes, the United States
wait,
of America.
Wait, Mr. B.
We need to say
United States of America.
mainly through the Maka Indians and the Eskimo from Alaska, the North Shore of Alaska. The United States of America, Russian Federation, Greenland, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Mainly Bequia.
Mainly Bequia, but it's called, we are not subdividing St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I had to say that to somebody at the International Whaling Commission, mainly from Argentina, who questioned why is Bequia doing this and St. Vincent. Why are we sending meat, whale meat, to St. Vincent and the Grenadines? And I had got up and said, Chair, please excuse me, but I cannot sit here idly and let an Argentinian subdivide and partition St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
No.
We are a sovereign state called St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
That's right.
And you cannot tell me I cannot go to mainland and distribute whale to my family over there because it was caught in Bequia.
Exactly.
So
Or to the Grenadines by extension.
extension. Okay, I want to give you some numbers. Namely, bowhead whales which are caught in the United States. They have a quota of 67 whales from the bowhead pack.
What?
67. And they have a rollover quota of 15. If you don't catch the 67, you can add 15 to the next year.
So
This is,
if I may
wait.
Yes.
Go ahead.
if I may interject, so what we're saying there is that they have a quota of 67.
That's not all.
But
I'm just getting to it, you know.
Yeah, that's it.
From the eastern North Pacific gray whales, from the gray whale stock,
Right.
because the scientific committee of the International Whaling Commission, which sets the quota, the International Whaling Commission scientific committee looks at what is available in the world. They do go out and fly over and look at and take photographs and count the number of whales, and they check the stock and see what's available. So from the stock that's available from the North Pacific gray whales, they can take 140 per year. 140 per year. From the West Greenland stock of humpback whales, just like this, it is believed that possibly, it's not proven yet, but possibly the humpbacks that come to the St. Vincent and Grenadines possibly comes from the Greenland pack. But from the Greenland pack, they can take 10 humpback whales. We take 4. From the West Greenland fin whales, they can take 19 fin whales from that stock. Okay? From the West Greenland bowhead whales, bowheads are one of the very endangered or limited or on the verge, whatever you want to call it. So they give them a limited, they can take 2. 2 from the bowhead whales. Now, from the West Greenland pack, here is the astonishing figures. From the West Greenland minke whale stock, they can take 225 whales from the West Greenland minke whale stock
That's per year?
per year.
What?
And the East Greenland minke whale, they can take 12. But St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we are allowed 4. So the smallest quota granted to any nation of the 4 whaling nation is granted to us, and we are comfortable with it. But we get the biggest attack. We are slaughtered. They're trying to destroy our tourism as a result of we catching 4 whales, which we have the legitimate legal right to capture.
So, if we will make a comparison,
Yeah.
given that the United States has a quota of 67,
Yeah.
and should they not catch the 67 in any given year,
They can have a
they can
rollover of 12, I think.
12, right?
Yes.
Now
We don't.
have that.
I never asked, and Mr. Snag never asked for a rollover quota.
Right, so we
because
never
we say we can stick to our quota
full.
and be comfortable with it.
Right. So as it stands, we have the less among
Least,
all
yeah.
of the other nations that
Nations.
allowed to do whaling, and we don't have the quota.
We don't have that large quota.
Exactly.
Yet we receive the largest scale of
Attack.
criticism and
Criticism and
Attack. And what are they doing? Attacking our vital industry, tourism. So you're
Right.
trying to tell me, if you don't stop catch whale, I can tell my people don't come to you.
Don't come.
Well, do you stop going to the United States for vacation? And do you stop shopping in the United States? And do you tell your friends to come home because they're catching whale in the United States or Greenland? I have nothing. I support, and let me put this down here. The 4 whaling nations, like I quoted earlier, we work together as a pack.
Right.
We work together because we're sharing similar criticisms.
Right.
And pressures are coming down, but not the pressure that we're facing. One popular radio commentator recently stated that tourism in St. Vincent and the Grenadines suffered a sudden death. Mainly that it died right after Easter. Well, everybody knows that tourism is seasonal in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Right, as it stands.
And the
That's right.
cruise ships that come here is not owned by anybody in the Caribbean. They're not
Right.
based in the Caribbean. They leave Europe and the United States and come here to bring tourists during the summer months, the good months for us.
Right.
During the winter months.
Right.
So they flee to the Caribbean. But now those ships have their itinerary listed for years. They have already planned their itinerary and they're picking up cruises in Europe to cruise in the Mediterranean, and they're picking up people in the United States on the West Coast to go to the very Alaska that catches 67 whales.
Thank you.
They can go there and do whale watching and still have the vibrant tourism industry going there, but nobody telling them,
That they
I ain't gonna
shouldn't.
bring no tourists to you.
Because you're killing
You
whales.
killing a whale up there. So why you want to kill me down here because I am small and I am insignificant and because our people black?
Alright,
Sorry
Mr.
about that. I want to
Well,
be racist
Hold
here.
on, one minute. Mr. Belmar, someone just called me, alright? They told me to mention to you,
Yes.
do not forget to mention about the whaling in Canada.
Right?
I don't know if the person wanted to mention the name live, but they said
of the northeast coast of northern Canada. EIW, something that they call it, the Eastern Eskimos.
Uh-huh.
They're all lumped together as the Eskimos of northern Canada and Alaska.
Right.
And I know they're involved in these quotas that I give
exactly.
you. So,
Well, we have some questions, so
Yes.
I would like to ask one. I don't know if this one would be fitting, but you make the decision whether you want to answer it or
Sure.
not, right? So, there's a question on Facebook. The question is asked. I need to ask a question on my behalf and for the whalers. Who gets the money that Japan gives to SVG for the support and vote at the IWC?
haha. I know that's a point that has been bothering people for many years. I want to say that as a member of the government of St. Vincent and Grenadines, I would talk about it now. I would say it. Because when Honorable Ralph Gonsalves became Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, it was a known fact that blank checks were given to St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Blank checks.
Blank checks were given to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Who cashed them and whose name went on them, I don't know, and I can't answer that. And don't ask me that question, because there might be litigations in that.
Right.
So I'm not getting down that road.
Right.
But I know the current government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines said to Japan, I will pay my own way to the International Whaling Commission. This government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, I would emphasize, pays their regular fees to the International Whaling Commission from the treasury of St. Vincent and the Grenadines and not from Japan.
Oh.
I have traveled on behalf of Vincentians, Bequians, to represent our people at the International Whaling Commission meeting and at the subcommittee meeting which I just quoted from, the Aboriginal Subsistence Whaling Working Group. Not at the cost of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, but at the cost of the International Whaling Commission, because I was a working member of the International Whaling Commission who paid my travel and my hotel accommodation. So I have no fear and I have no worry about it. I have nothing in it, no barrel
Right,
hole in it.
exactly.
My pockets are empty.
Right.
So I got nothing to worry about. But I know, and I hope you get the message, that St. Vincent and the Grenadines has cooperation with Japan. Japan has done projects in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, namely fisheries development, and they are currently working on a development in Barley to help the whalers in the performance of their regular duties over there. But I know nothing and I have no evidence of St. Vincent and Grenadines receiving any
Any
checks
money? Oh.
since the Unity Labour Party became government in this country.
Okay.
Only
so
thing we know is blank checks.
blank checks. Okay. All right.
That's
this-
quite interesting.
The second question. Well, this was basically asking if you can make that data which you have available to the public.
The numbers?
No, I guess the
Oh, the
figures,
data which I made available,
Yeah.
you can get that from the International Whaling Commissioner website. If the website is listed on this document, I'll see if I can find it by the end of the discussion. I can give you the website. You can get all that data right there on the website.
We have a voice
It's
note here.
available.
I guess somebody's gonna ask a question, so I'll play it, and then we will proceed to the discussion.
Yeah, but I'm sure if you just Google the International Whaling Commission, you should find the website will come up. And if you want to find a report from the last meeting in Brazil, you type Brazil and you'll get that
And you'll
all
get
the
it as
report
well.
from the meeting in Brazil.
Okay then. All right. So we have a
2018 meeting.
okay. So we have a listener who I believe it's a question that they have to ask.
Mr. Rick, Mr. Belmar, good afternoon. Danny, no, I'd like to comment on this whaling thing because I've been here and yeah, good afternoon, guys. Mr. Rick, Mr. Belmar, good afternoon.
All right. So I will just pause it a while, make sure Mr. Belmar is hooked up. All right. All right. So we are back, and we are going to play the voice note now. From are you hearing? You guys hearing?
Yeah, I'm hearing it.
All right. Good.
No, I was on.
Yeah.
Yeah, good afternoon, guys. Mr. Rick, Mr. Belmar, good afternoon. Danny, no, I'd like to comment on this whaling thing because I've been here and I've been seeing it, you know, seeing like different posts and stuff like that with the whaling trying to be.
Wait, we have an issue. Okay, so we are back. We had a just had the issue, so we're gonna play his voice note from the start again.
Yeah, good afternoon, guys. Mr. Belmar, good afternoon. Danny, no, I'd like to comment on this whaling thing because I've been here and I've been seeing it, you know, seeing like different posts and stuff like that with the whaling trying to be stopped and stuff like that. But you know, when a foreign guy come in and he see us with his tradition, with our tradition, I don't know why he don't leave us with our tradition. You know, like if he go to another country like Japan and these places where the whale is being caught, like hundreds of them, you know, I'm sure he can go there and use his body the same way as a shield to stop these guys from catching the whale. I'm sure he's not gonna do that. So you know, like, I mean, they see us with our tradition. I think they should leave it. I mean, Louise Mitchell, I think she should know better too. She been around. She from the islands. You know, I think she should leave us with it because, come on, that's the only thing that really keep us alive. And again, how often we catch a whale? We don't catch whale that often. Maybe like once a year, maybe none at all. Maybe in 2 years. You know, and the whaling itself have a big impact in the community, especially in Patrick Farm.
Yes.
You know, it have a big impact. I remember growing up, going to school, and we used to run out of school over here blows fast though. We used to run out of school. So I think she should leave us alone because I'm sure she eating other wild meat like steak and all these stuff. So I think she need to do a research on how these things is killed because they slaughtering them alive, like cutting the throat and stuff like that. So I think she need to do a research on the meat that she eating before she come and discriminate our meat that we eating. I think that's what she need to do.
Okay, I think that was some meat for thought there. Thanks for your voice note, Carter. And you touched on quite a few issues. I want first of all to give you the statistics from 2008 for St. Vincent and the Grenadines. In 2000, well, I can go back to 2008, but let me do 2013. 2013, since we had the quota introduced of 4 whales, we were able to take those 4 whales in 2013. In 2014, we had none. In 2015, we had 1. 2016, 0. 2017, 1. 2018, 0. And this year, we had 3. So in that block of 6 years, we only took 6 whales. How
In the space of what?
Eh?
In the space of 6 years?
6 years.
So on an average, we got
So 1 whale per year.
Right.
Now, the data from the International Whaling Commission Scientific Committee shows that we probably have over 14,000 adult whales in the Atlantic that come to our waters.
14,000.
14,000.
We know that an adult female gives birth once every 3 years. We estimate that there are over 300 whales added to the stock every year. Now, if we are taking 6 in 6 years, how on earth can you tell me we are endangering this species? What we need to remember that it was not Vincentians who first made a serious onslaught on the whaling population in the Caribbean. When the Norwegians came into the region in 1925 and set up a gunboat station on Glover Island. Those of you who don't know Glover Island, it's a little island smaller than Bequia. Not even Bequia, probably maybe the size of Pittenevas. South of Carriacou, between Carriacou and Grenada.
Oh, yes, I know. Yeah.
So Glover Island became the whaling station for the Norwegian. And in 1925, with their gunboats, they took 125 humpback whales. In 1926, I think they took 75. And by 1927, they took like 25 or less. So the operation became non-viable because of the decimation of the whales in the region. It was not people from Bequia. We suffered having to go through those lean periods, and our men endured. The tradition continued, and we are still practicing and comfortable to continue our practices unless some I don't know how it's going to happen, but it will take a lot of doing, because the people of this community are very determined to continue their cultural tradition. Now, as far as this foreigner who claimed to have made himself into a human shield, in the first case, he endangered himself by getting between a harpoon and a whale.
I'm telling you, it's
I commend and praise our men for practicing, what should I call it? Patience. For exercising extreme tolerance to not do anything harmful to that gentleman.
Yes.
He also could have been damaged by the whale. Let's say, for instance, the whale was harpooned when he was right next to it, because he said the whale came up and looked at me for a little while. That means he was right there between the whale and the boat.
Whoa.
If the whale was harpooned, the slap of the tail or the fin, he would have been history.
And who would have gotten wrong?
Because who can you blame?
Who can you blame?
He said he paddled out on a paddle boat, and he was in Mustique waters. I am judging from
Mustique have waters different to the Grenadines?
Well, Mustique has its own act that governs Mustique and Mustique territory. And I understand from the act they have 1,000 yards limits around the coast of Mustique. Now that is not very well known to our fishermen. It is not known, as far as I know, to the whalers.
But why the restriction? Well, that's a
But
different topic
all of a
in
sudden,
different sense.
this man paddles out and says he was in Mustique waters and the whales were in Mustique waters. Who is the judge of that? Did he take a GPS position on the whale and the whaleboat at the time? Did he have the right as a pirate to hold on to the people's whaleboat and practically boarding the boat, holding on to the rudder, I was told,
Wow.
so that the boat cannot maneuver to get near to the whaleboat?
This is craziness. So this man
That
has
is total piracy.
definitely.
But I would like to.
So the fact that the whalers tolerated that without bringing any form of harm to him as a pirate boarding their boat is indeed commendable. And I think we should give our men praises for being tolerant.
I agree with you, Mr.
Let me have, before I go further, let me hear you. Yeah.
What I was gonna ask is, given that whaling is a legal practice here,
Yes.
and he practically interfered with the process, is it not considered he is acting illegally?
I would consider it illegally if it was outside of the 1,000-yard limit, because I think the act gives Mustique Company to take measures to protect life and living, or whatever the term is,
I don't understand.
within that waters.
So,
I don't
But
understand.
given
as
that,
an independent person,
Right.
a householder,
right?
is he part of the management of Mustique? If that's the case, tell
Right.
me
No.
so.
I could answer that. No.
Oh well, then you have information I'm not a part
Because
of.
I used to be in Musty, and any report, Mr. Belmar, you have to call the Musty company, and they have to relay the message to the authorities, police or security. They cannot take their full charge and go and send somebody or try to, let me say, take action
Intervene
and
on their own.
intervene. Thank you
Right.
very much. So right then he now is making bad for himself, because a whaler man was explaining to me how everything happened, and he just didn't hold her on the boat, Mr. Belmar. He hold her on the rod, the tiller.
This is craziness.
So therefore
I do
the
not
boat
understand.
could have been in difficulty as a
Yeah.
result of
And
the action.
Right.
the thank God the gentleman who was captain that boat was an older man, because I believe he would have been still injured from it. And also, it's about 4,000 or 5,000 yards. They were off Musty, because we know a whale not going to go in 1,000 yards inside. And when the boat came out, they called the patrol boat also. You know, they know that they were coming for them. And
I heard that.
and when the whaler man said to me, it was the sergeant said to them, you have to leave now or we will have to take actions. And after they start to argue with him, he pulled his licensed firearm and pointed directly to them.
Who pulled the license?
Who pulled the sergeant of the police
Oh, we're talking with the police.
In Mustique.
in Mustique, on the Mustique patrol boat. I could say more, but I know many people were there, and these guys, they were not frightened, but they would just want to be peaceful. We know Bequia people don't make trouble.
I don't understand this. What is the cause of this sort of tension?
This
Now,
is-
this is how it comes to me as an individual. You have an island which is basically a part of a country, which is St. Vincent and the Grenadines. You are given certain jurisdictions, certain privilege as an island to have your own, have yourself set up in a way that you become sort of independent to yourself, rather than you don't really depend on the island of St. Vincent to get.
And granted, Mustique has contributed significantly and still is contributing, and it will do so for many years,
Yes.
to the GDP of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Employment, property value, property rentals, property sales, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
And the annual contribution to the economy. So they have their place in society.
But this guy who came out after the whalers, did there was nothing, the security wasn't there to see what was happening? I mean, how can it get so far to the point that the police had to be taking out his licensed firearm?
I'm taking it that this man took it upon himself to do what he did. He had the sympathies of the Mustique Coast Guard police or whoever is responsible, and they pushed the whalers beyond what was expected of them. I want to say that it is, to me, saying money is power, power is might, might is right. And that should not be existing here. That is apartheid.
Well, Mr. Belmar, I think you said it perfectly right.
Well, I have some voice notes here again. They're rolling in. I'll play this one. I wouldn't call it a name, but I guess persons will eventually pick up the voice. Alright, so let's listen.
Good evening, gentlemen. I want to find out who is advocating for the sheep, the goat, the cattle, the chicken. Who's advocating for them? The same thing these people who's advocating for the whale, they have them on their plate. You have to kill an animal in order to get meat. So it doesn't matter if you kill a pig, a sheep, a goat, a whale, it still dies. You understand? And we do not kill whale in, the large amounts as how they would kill sheep and goat and cow. So I don't know what is their problem. They need to relax. Allow the thing. Me love me little corn oil and sweet potato. So they may stop me from eating that.
Who advocate the turtles? I mean, that shouldn't be a topic to hit yet, but I guess when you come back we could talk more about these other species.
I was made to understand that the St. Vincent and Grenadines Preservation Fund, I think that's what it's called.
Yeah.
It's the same organization that's advocating for whales. The same persons who advocated heavily for the turtles, and they are bringing excessive pressures. I am almost waiting, and I think there's only one factor that is preventing an advocate to come forward from that same group soon to say you can have conch and lobster on the hotel tables.
Oh boy.
Oh
boy.
But you see the direction I'm coming from.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree with you because I was actually going to say that. Because if you look at the course of action, you can see what is happening. And I mean, let's take our whaling. Apart from the tradition, how we treat our whale. We pretty much utilize every aspect of the whale.
Yeah.
We eat meat, we use the oil, we even use the bone.
Yeah.
We do jewelry. So it's not like we just start in the whale to get the oil, and all the rest of the meat spoil. Or it's not that we just slaughter in the whale for fun's sake. I remember seeing one person saying that,
Save your mic is off.
It's not out, but he needs to
You could
speak
No,
closer.
he,
to the mic.
okay,
Right,
go
I
ahead.
remember responding to one person that assumed that we are catching whale simply for economic basis, one, and two, just because, we pleasure ourselves, we take fun in slaughtering whales. And I had to respond and tell that person, you had to know nothing about our culture of whaling to make such a statement.
Well, by you saying that statement, somebody's actually saying here that, to me, they're trying to kill the culture more than anything. This is more than whaling. This whole whale thing smells like money is the motivation to stop whaling. That is what the person said.
I don't know if anybody else need to hear it, but what is the group or the organization that is pushing for us to stop catching this whale? Is what? Preservation funds? They have funds in it, right?
It wants the funds, right?
Right, preservation funds, right? So the question is, what is it preserving?
Whale watching?
No. Given our 6,000, whatever our figure is, population in this little island, right? And on our years, who among us is going to pay to go on a boat and watch a whale go across our waters?
But
it's not something that we do.
the
We
whole
don't
issue in
watch
the situation, the whole issue in the situation is, Alan, is that with the catching of whale, we are completing all of the above
Thank
mentioned.
you. We have to watch it to catch it.
We have to watch it
Yeah.
to catch it.
Yep.
So
And we
everybody